We can hear you rubbing your hands with glee at the announcement of these figures. David Cameron missing the target, but no?
No, I'm not rubbing my hands with glee. I don't want this to be the case. I want us, Tom, to have an Australian-style point system where we're in control of the numbers and the quality of people that come to Britain. I would love immigration to be a non-issue because we'd actually got it to the point where everyone that came to Britain had a skill or a trade to bring to contribute. Everybody had been checked and hadn't had a criminal record, and everyone that came brought medical insurance with them. And these figures don't fill my heart with glee because I know that what is happening is people are finding getting their kids into primary school next year even harder, that to get on the housing ladder, whether you're buying it or looking for a council house, gets harder by the year, that England's green and pleasant land is being swallowed up because we have to build a new house every 7 minutes just to cope with current migration levels, and that your waiting time at the NHS can't possibly go down because the population's going through the roof. So, and I could go on with, the change in our communities and everything else. I don't want this to be the case, but maybe these figures are beginning to shock people into realising that the Conservative government, the coalition, and the Labour government before that simply haven't come clean with the British people. You cannot control immigration. It is pointless setting targets if you're members of the European Union and you have an open door to 500 million people.
Is there any part of you that thinks immigration is a good idea in certain circumstances? You look at the people who are working in the NHS, filling those jobs, the number of people who taking those jobs from overseas has increased.
Yes, well, I would say with the NHS, it's really rather sad that we're not training enough of our own nurses. I mean, that strikes me as being rather ludicrous. But take the big picture. Do I think immigration can be a very good thing for Britain? Absolutely. Do I want us to have a proper managed migration policy? Yes. Do I think immigration levels that we ran in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s of net about 30,000 a year worked? I do. It is now running at 10 times that number, and that's if you believe the official figures, which, by the way, I don't. I think the true figures are much, much higher than we're being told. So what I'm talking about isn't whether we're for immigration or against immigration. That'd be rather silly. What I'm talking about is having a proper ability to manage migration. This government doesn't have that. A Labour government wouldn't have that. And it's why, actually, when it comes to the EU referendum, this needs to be absolutely at the heart of the debate. I believe we should control our own borders.
So you are, just to be clear, you are not in any way angry or scathing towards the people who come here. You are angry and scathing of the policy that allows them to do so, in your words, to get to these numbers.
Yes,
so it's not about a Romanian person living in the house next door. It's not about feeling nervous about people speaking foreign languages on train carriages.
No. I mean, look, if you live in a street and the majority of people in the street or in your kids' class don't speak English, you will be upset about it. Of course you will. But that isn't really the point, because that's the symptom. It's not the cause. The cause is we're not in control of the numbers. And I'm most scathing about our politicians who simply refuse to tell that truth. They refuse. Still today, Mr. Cameron says, we can control numbers that come from Europe. We can fiddle around with migrant benefits. The truth is, we've lost control. And what I'm arguing is we must get it back. And actually, what this EU referendum does is give us that opportunity.
Do you think, Nigel, briefly and finally, that we are taking in enough asylum seekers, genuine asylum seekers in this country?
It's a very, very good question. Unfortunately, genuine asylum seekers, or can I use the word refugees, which I rather prefer, genuine refugees are being lost in this whole, massive problem we have with our borders. I mean, 636,000 people settled in Britain last year. Very, very few of them genuine refugees. I do believe Britain should have its policy of offering sanctuary to genuine refugees, but not until first we sort out the current mess that we've got.
So we should be taking more than 183 Syrian refugees, for example?
Well, I was the first figure in British politics to argue that in particular Christians in Syria are in the most appalling position with no neighbouring country they can go to and feel safe. So I've made those arguments in the past. I understand all of that, but at the moment, most of the British public aren't even prepared to contemplate that. What most people are saying is, can we find a solution to the immediate crisis? And once we do that, then we can start thinking about doing what we've done for centuries and offering, refugee status to people who are genuine.